Hello, Internet. I thought today we would talk about, a subject that sometimes a lot of people don't talk about. Sometimes, if you think about the past and things that you used to like or things that you didn't see, it's kind of interesting when you get to go back and look at, especially like, say, magazines or movies or songs that were, published in the past, and you get to look at them through a perspective of how you've aged or how you've moving forward. Well, I just got a nice little stack of comic books from my good friend Jawiin, who was in the one of the previous computer watches. You saw him in our Cafe 50s, and he gave me a bunch of Superman comic books from around 2000 to 2001 and 2002. And I thought we would take four of those comic book covers and look at them and see how Superman was perceived then and how he's perceived now. Now, I have a very special spot in my heart for Superman. If you haven't been able to tell, look, I got a shirt on right now. So I got mad love for the guy right there. The big old alien in the sky. Plus, he's from my home state, Kansas. But I've always felt the Superman story works best when you don't treat him as a man, but you treat him as a cipher for America. However the country is doing at that time, or how it perceives itself to doing, is how Superman is. He is our hopes, he's our ideals, he is our pain. He takes all of that on. He is probably, in my feeling, one of the quote-unquote American gods. Now, I mean that in the most loosest of terms, as in like mythology and stuff like that. He is sort of a Zeus or an Odysseus kind of figure. But let's go. Now, this first issue, this is Superman 176, and this was published in January of 2002. Now, there's something very stark you should notice here. Superman's cape is black. Now, this was after a storyline called Our World's at War, and a bunch of people on Earth were killed. Kansas was decimated. Aliens came down. They were like, "We want Earth." It was a big long story. Imperiex was involved, and Superman, to mourn the ones that were thought dead, including Aquaman at the time, he came back. Don't worry, he kept talking to fish. He turned part of his costume black. I like the look. It's very sleek, but it's very telling if you think about it in terms of what happened 4 months previous of this, September 11th. Now, so again, my metaphor for Superman represents the country, right? Now look at this cover. It's a Superman at Terminal. His back is to us, but yet he's still all strong, and he's ready to face on the world and everything like that. Now, I don't know if there could be a more telling image of, the post 9/11 world. Now, I'm not saying that's what they intended with this, but it's just interesting to think about it in those terms. Let's go to the next cover. This is Superman the Man of Steel, number 120. This was published in January of 2002. Very excellent cover by Mike Wieringo. Or Ringo, I think I'm saying that right. He's one of my favorite artists, and I can't even pronounce his name. That's how much of a dummy I am. He did an amazing Fantastic Four run with Mark Waid. Now, this is classic Superman coming out of... I can't even hold the book straight. Superman coming out of the phone booth. He's got his arm up. He's getting ready to go. And, there's not much to say about this, except, again, you notice the black. He's still in mourning. But this really screams to me as them trying to be like, oh, classic Superman. What do you know about Superman? He runs into a phone booth and gets out of his clothes and goes at it, So it's interesting, again, to think of it in the prism of this previous month's cover, or the same month, actually, a different title, and put the two together. That like, oh, hey, we're in turmoil, let's go back to the classics. And we go so far back into the classics that we take Superman off the cover in The Adventures of Superman 598, published in the same month of January 2002. Again, you see the black. They're making sure that you see the black Superman symbol every time. Now, I'm not saying that's intentional, but it's just interesting to think about it that way. And he's coming out of the same phone booth. See, they're interconnected. That's why Mike Ringo is awesome. And again, classic. The classic, there is not a more quintessential Superman image than this. There's not much to say about it. Now, Superman, at the same time, while he represents America in the way we feel, that's my thoughts anyway, I feel he also represents the best of us. He represents our dreams. He represents where we can go, how far we can reach. And this cover exemplifies that fact perfectly. This was still published in January of 2002. This is Superman Action Comics number 786. This is Superman flying in a red Saturn-like planet. They made his logo like the future, and he's just out chilling with a crack in the universe. Looks like the crack in the universe from Doctor Who. But this exemplifies the far side of Superman. Superman on one side represents America, and on the other side he represents how far we could go if just for 1 second we believed in ourselves and leapt buildings taller than red Saturn.